take a deep breath in. As you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, that's right, just allow your eyelids to close, feeling heavier and heavier. Breathing in that resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just allow feelings of tension, stress, or worry to feel like it's leaving your body in your outward breath. That's it. Scan your body for any clues of tension. That might be a facial expression that isn't required. It might be muscles that are tight. And just feel like it's time to let go. Not just of the tension, but it's time to let go of an emotion you've been holding on to for way too long. As you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to get the sense that you've been holding on to an emotion that was never yours to hold on to. It belonged to someone else. I want you to imagine how you would feel if 31 years ago someone accumulated a debt. It was their choice. It was their debt. But they ran away without paying the debt. And for 31 years, you've been paying back a debt that was never yours, and the interest just getting higher and higher. And now it's time to let go of that. To acknowledge that it was never yours. It was for someone else. And that actually, it wasn't a debt for you to hold, but a reward for you to be given for doing something very significant, for breaking a cycle that has been occurring perhaps over countless generations. As you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to imagine that there's a large inflatable bubble, and this bubble enables you to climb inside the bubble and go backwards and forwards in time. As you breathe in and breathe out, just release any feelings of tension, particularly around the neck and the shoulders. Feel more relaxed, and imagine this bubble is floating upwards. So you can see your life from above. You can see yourself beneath you. And just imagine that it's your imagination that's traveling back in time, not your physical body. So leave your physical body below. And I want you to go back several generations. I want you to go back to perhaps your grandmother's childhood. You might know where she was living, or you might not know the details, but I want you to get a sense that your imagination will fill in the gaps, that you can go all the way back in time, and you can imagine seeing a vulnerable child that needed love, that needed protection, that needed safety, but found that lacking. I want you to observe as there's perhaps a sweet, innocent child capable of so much, but being on the receiving end of unjustified pain, that vulnerability perhaps abused by other people. I want you to see a child that had to grow up quickly, that didn't have love as a child, so then sought out that love wherever it was offered. They had to do whatever they could to survive. I want you to see a scared but resourceful person. And sometimes when people go through those tough times, they have to become tough just to survive. And I want you to imagine that this child becomes a teenager, before long becomes a mother. But perhaps there was controversy, scandal, judgment attached to the birth of that child. And people have a way of dealing with different things in different ways. And imagine from a bubble, you're observing some of the conversations that took place during that pregnancy, after the pregnancy, in the early years. And I want you to get a sense that sometimes when people are holding on to difficult emotions, they deflect. They deflect and they give undeserved punishment and judgment, all the things they couldn't process in themselves. They're deflecting that onto someone or something else. Perhaps you can see the consequence of that on your mother. Still in your bubble, invisible to anyone else, but just witness some of the tough times that beautiful child would have had to have gone through. The one person that should have been there to protect her was the course of pain and punishment, criticism and judgment. That when she was going through tough times, she had no one to talk to, no one to protect her, no one to get help from. And imagine that child becomes older with all the trauma and belief systems, not feeling loved, not feeling worthy. And perhaps the first time that a man pays any kind of attention, like a flower needing water and sunshine, so desperate for that attention, that love, the status of finally being respected, being worthy, is willing to compromise so many other values, to look the other way, to pretend not to notice certain things. The people that she should have been able to ask for help or guidance or support weren't available. And I want you to see someone that lacked courage, lacked resourcefulness. I want you to see someone that decided to take the easy path, and then see that woman also become a mother. Perhaps because she didn't have a good experience of having a good mother herself, didn't know how to really be a mother, but perhaps was a hard worker, so she did the thing that she knew how to do, worked hard, was away from the house a lot. That was her way of giving love, was making sure there were food available, clothes to wear, doing what was expected as a family, go to church. She was trying her best with what she knew, but had very little options. No one taught her how to be courageous. No one taught her to stand up for herself. There was a vulnerable woman, abused throughout her childhood, that didn't know what to do. And I want you to observe those things happening that shouldn't have happened. You're in a bubble, just watching what's happened. And I want you to see that that small child had no way to protect themselves. The mother wasn't there to protect them. Perhaps the father was the perpetrator. There was just a vulnerable child being taken advantage of. There is no shame in that. You're not a victim, you are a survivor. And that survivor became strong. And that survivor, at some point, chose to make a choice to break a cycle, to break a pattern, to break a pattern that perhaps had been occurring generation after generation for maybe even centuries. That certain things are not okay, that certain things must be stopped. But this child also didn't have good role models as parents, so sought that protection in a father figure, sought refuge in another person, and then had that person take advantage. Again, just observe what happened. It's understandable. This is a person that did the best they could with what they knew. With all the resources they had at that point, they made the best choices possible. They had a desire to be protected, to be loved, but didn't have the frame of reference because they lacked role models to show them what good love looks like. But I want you to observe as you see a woman, seemingly out of nowhere, choosing to take more difficult paths. It would have been so easy to just repeat the cycle and have this woman abuse their daughter, but they didn't. They nurtured, supported, encouraged that daughter, enabling communication back and forth. I want you to observe a woman that the moment became aware that abuse was taking place, did things that would affect status, resources, practicalities, just did whatever was needed to be done to keep their daughter safe. As you breathe in and breathe out, you can observe a truth. You're seeing a woman not deserving of guilt or shame. You're seeing a warrior, full of courage, doing difficult things, becoming more resourceful, having options. You're seeing perhaps the first in centuries to break a generational cycle of abuse and trauma. The woman that you're seeing there, your younger self, is not the villain, but the hero. This is the person that you needed when you were a child. No one was there for you, so you became that person for your daughter. And I want you to see how that chain of events then impacted your daughter's life. Perhaps it led to someone creative, hardworking, someone that felt safe enough to be able to talk to their own mother, seeing a child that had a good relationship with their mother. And if through this lens you could acknowledge that sometimes good things come from bad moments, but that actually you're the courageous hero that broke that generational cycle, just let me know by nodding your head. I want you to imagine now that you're returning to the present, but you're returning to the present with a feeling that something has changed. Something powerful has changed, and that is that your identity of how you see yourself is changed. I want you to imagine that you are the generational hero, the courageous warrior. And as you process this journey of healing, you recognize the courageous warrior within you, armed with inner strength and resilience. You acknowledge that the decisions of the past do not define your worth or your future. And finally, you can release any guilt that no longer serves you. Just feel that weight lifting, letting go of that guilt. Like a protective shield, you prioritize the safety and well-being of those that you love above all else. You embrace the truth that you are a loving mother, capable of providing the care and protection that you yourself needed when you were a child. With each breath, you release any self-blame, recognizing that you were not responsible for the actions of another. And just as a phoenix rises from the ashes, you emerge from this experience wiser, stronger, and more resilient because of your courage. You forgive yourself for any perceived shortcomings, understanding that you did the best you could with the knowledge and resources that you had at the time. Nobody's perfect, but you took courageous decisions. Like a beacon of light, your love and dedication shine brightly. You are now a positive role model that perhaps you needed. You let go of any burden of responsibility, knowing that you've taken the necessary steps to become wiser, to break this generational cycle of abuse. That you are the hero in the story of your family tree. Embracing the power of self-compassion, you shower yourself with love and understanding, releasing any self-judgment. You are a beacon of hope and strength for your daughter, even to this day continuing to provide her with the love and support she needs to heal and thrive. And just as a mighty oak stands tall and unwavering, you remain steadfast in your commitment to your daughter's well-being. And you can forgive yourself because you recognize that your actions were driven by love and a fierce desire to protect. It was the wrong choice, but with the right intention. So you can release any feelings of guilt or regret. And like a river flowing with grace, you let go of the past, allowing healing and forgiveness to wash over you. Finding solace in the knowledge that you are not defined by the mistakes of others, and you have the power to create a powerful future that will ripple through all the generations that follow. Like a majestic lioness protecting her cub, you fiercely guarded your daughter's safety and happiness. And you draw upon your inner well of strength and resilience, knowing that you possess the power to overcome any challenges that come your way. And because of that, you have enormous evidence within your life that you are strong and resourceful and capable, able to see red flags that perhaps you missed in the past, meaning that if you choose to, you could now entertain the idea of a new relationship, a new companion, because you are wiser and more resourceful than you have ever been. Allow yourself to trust yourself once more, to accept that the past is the past. You've broken a cycle of trauma and abuse. And perhaps the final chapter needed to truly break that cycle of abuse is to forgive yourself fully and completely. And in doing so, you allow yourself to be yet another great example and positive role model for all future generations. If your unconscious mind accepts these suggestions to be true, useful and helpful, to let go of the guilt and regret of the past and open a new doorway into a positive, joyful future, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. Feel how good it feels to let go of that guilt, that regret, and allow inwards feelings of pride, accomplishment, and gratitude. Realizing that the gift from all of this is joy. So allow joy into your life. Feel how good it feels to finally be joyful and happy. And accepting the suggestion that you will have more joy and happiness in your future. Allow yourself to return fully to the present as you take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Fully releasing all the baggage of the past. That's it. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, fully integrating into this moment as I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.